Now this story is from memory, as I could not locate the original post from where I read this. But from what I remember, this covers the night of Dale Earnhardt's 1995 Brickyard 400 win. Dale had stayed celebrating the victory, and dusk had begun to set on the 2.5-mile oval. Through some sort of means, he got a motorcycle, and decided he was going to take one lap around the track as night fell, to take in the sights one last time. Dale flipped up the kickstand and started his celebratory lap from the yard of bricks. He rolled through turn 1, and then down the short chute in the 2. Everything seemed normal, as he slowly took everything in at his pace of 40 miles an hour. He made it to the backstretch, and according to some watching him, Dale, about halfway down the straightaway, went from 40 to 100 miles an hour as he darted around the rest of the lap. Some thought he was having fun. And when he got back to the front stretch, the 7-time champion was pale white and he was visibly shaken. Apparently the track he thought was desolate was well alive, and while not described greatly, what he saw scared him to the point where he wanted to leave the track immediately. Again, this is something that isn't cited very well. But along with the mysticism of Indy comes a belief among some that the track belongs to the fallen in the night hours, the time for the souls who have perished there to rest. And according to locals on a very few offhand encounters, there's ghosts and spirits that roam the Brickyard, haunting racing's most hallowed grounds. This one again is another Earnhardt tale, and involves the 1990 Daytona champion Derrike Cope. Many know the famous finish where Dale dominates the majority of the 1995 100, but blows a tire in the turn 3 on the last lap. Cope skirts by and wins his first career race and the Daytona 500. Fast forward 31 years, and on the weekend of the 20th anniversary of Earnhardt's passing, and the supposed last start of Derrike Cope's career, Derrike starts the race as near last. And on lap 3, the classic silent lap for Dale Earnhardt begins. As Mike Joy monologues, the field heads through 3 and 4, when the caution is called. Derrike Cope is in the wall. He blew what appears to be a right rear tire heading into turn 3, and slammed the fence. Now, I don't know if this is more of an urban legend, or a freaky coincidence, but Cope's career ends with the way he beat Earnhardt, and a finish of last place. This story comes from a user on Reddit. I'll see if I'll find the actual post and link it in the description. But the story goes as this. During a race at Phoenix in the late 80s, early 90s, Jeff Bodine was approached by a woman who had lost her husband. She requested that her husband wanted to ride around the track but never got the opportunity. But she offered the second best thing apparently. She gave them her husband's urn and asked if Jeff could take it around the track. Jeff and his team weirdly accepted the gesture and went out to turn a few laps. As Jeff went around with the urn, he took it easy before accelerating quickly and then back into the pits. He did that because the urn had come undone and ashes had spilled all over the car, including on the Jeff himself. It is unclear how it was cleaned up and what was done after, but nonetheless, definitely an experience probably Jeff Bodine or the rest of the team will never forget. This story was briefly mentioned in the first edition of this series, but I'll go more in depth with this one. Larry Smith was a North Carolina native that wanted to make his go at becoming a NASCAR driver. He ran full-time in 1972, logging his rookie year, and in 1973 he made the trip to Talladega. On lap 14, Smith lost control and spun into the outside wall. The contact was light, and the team saw the car come to rest in fairly decent condition. They began preparing for the repairs for the minor damage, and the car sat running still. Safety crews finally decided to go over. It had been a while, and Smith still hadn't moved from the minor accident. The crews got to the car and they walked up to it. They looked inside, and Larry was dead. It was a shock to everyone involved, and a study went into how he died from such an impact. It was found that Larry had a naturally softer skull than the average person, and that he had sustained unknown skull fractures in the past. There was also a rumor that he was taking the padding out of his helmet due to the discomfort it was causing him. But this rumor is unproven, and no one knows if that contributed to this accident. The mystery to how he died comes to a quick stop when you look at the photo of Larry's car in the crash. Now, looking at this, how in the hell did they think this was a light crash? The roof is bent in, and the whole right side is crushed. Let alone if they thought the crash was survivable. There was no way in hell he was going to drive away from this. My only assumption as to why people thought the wreck wasn't bad was that the damage happened in such a way that people from the infield, especially the pits if this was in turn 1, couldn't see the damaged part of the car. If you imagine it and look at it from if you were standing on the ground from the pits, you only see the undamaged left side. The whole right front was destroyed, but everything else was fine. Regardless of what the whole situation may be, 31-year-old Larry Smith was killed. The fact that he had to live with multiple injuries to suffer through before this makes this story that much sadder. This is perhaps one of the most sensitive topics to talk about, but it's forever been about motorsports. What happens to a car once a driver has died in it? Usually the cars are destroyed, or popular practice is to bury the car. This is likely what happened to Dale Earnhardt's car, though not confirmed, is rumored to be buried somewhere on Richard Childress's property. There are some other weird theories, from it being in Dale Jr.'s graveyard, which I doubt, to the insane ones, which, when they repaved Daytona in 2010, it was buried under the start-finish line, or it's at the bottom of Lake Lloyd. Those are, of course, incredibly outlandish and works of accelerated imagination. Wherever Earnhardt's car is now, it's the right of his family members and loved ones to know, and us to not ask. For 2 other deaths that occurred in the year 2000 at New Hampshire, Kenny Irwin Jr. and Adam Petty, Adam in 2000 was killed in a horrific crash. And while I can't confirm this, from what I understand, before the team could decide what to do with Adam's car, NASCAR confiscated it to study for safety improvement. Again, I can't confirm that. When Kenny passed away in July of that year, 3 months after Adam, the team got the car back for a short period of time. They apparently did not want to let NASCAR have the car, and instead took it into a field at night. The crew stood together and lit the car on fire, quickly throwing in all of the team gear and memorabilia. They burned everything they had that was associated with that weekend. It was the team's way to pay tribute to Kenny. A touching way to send off a car your driver was killed in. Just part of any crew member, crew chief, or even owner. They have to deal with the death of a driver, and on many occasions also a friend. It's undoubtedly the worst part of the sport. The part that makes you doubt if it is all really worth it. To Kenny Irwin Jr., and to all the drivers who have died pursuing what they loved, may they forever rest in peace.